everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today's is going to be a quick one, but it's a valuable point. Guys, I want to talk about the most underrated flipping color out there. For years, it seems like the top selling baits, whether it's a jig, a creature bait, a craw bait, a beaver style bait, the top selling colors for flipping baits is always going to be your black and blue, your green pumpkins, your browns, your blacks, your purple mixed in there. It's always those colors. But I'm here to tell you, there is a color that you definitely need to make sure that you've got in your tackle box, and that is white. Guys, white or minnow color or shad color, your whites and silvers. It's pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you, because it's a very hard color to find. A lot of my favorite baits do not even come in what I would consider a shad color, your whites or your silvers. They don't make them because they don't sell that well. And it's really something that the angler community overlooks. We all like to use white when when you're talking about spinner baits, swim jigs, swim baits, any of your shad imitating baits. We love to use white. Crankbaits, chatterbaits, any moving bait like that, we catch a ton of fish on white baits. But for some reason, we do not choose white baits if you go to slow down. And I'm telling you, it's a mistake. There are times of the year you definitely want to be using white. So for instance, if you're talking about any time around a shad spawn and you're flipping cover, that's a great time to be throwing white, because the dock or the laydown or the grass that you're flipping your bait into is also where the shad are going to be spawning. So those fish are feeding on a lot of shad and therefore keyed in on white. Pretty much the entire year you've got fish that are feeding on shad. And if they're feeding on shad, then they're very much into, eating a white bait or a silver colored bait. It's just one of those things that really surprises me. And I got to tell you, it's very much a reaction thing. I do not personally like using a slow moving bait that's a white color or a silver color if I'm dealing with, say, fish on beds. I don't think you get the fish to commit as well. But remember, the fish aren't in a feeding mode when they're on the bed. So when the fish is staged by a laydown tree or a dock post, that's what those fish are waiting for, is a forage species to swim by. So whether it is your shad or even your bluegill, I mean, honestly, bluegills are much more silver colored than they are green colored. For instance, this is the Berkeley Boss Grub in the bluegill flash color. That is very much a realistic looking bluegill color. And it doesn't even have any green in it. At the same time, that looks like your standard minnow, your standard shad. It's a phenomenal flipping color. I love using bluegill flash anytime I'm flipping, especially if I'm in some clear water. But if I've got fish that are keying in on shad or bait fish, it's a great color. You've got your standard whites. A lot of the colors that you can get, like this Zoom Speed Craw, are just your straight white, which is a good color because honestly, it really mimics a shad really well. The thing is, I like it if you can find it with a little bit more of a silver tone in it, or a little bit of flake in it to give it more of that flash like a bait fish. The reason you can find the whites like this pearl white color, is because this is what they sell for spawning fish. But it still works good for flipping. I just wish we had more variations. Another one that I really like, this is the general, just in their hologram color. Let's see if you can see that good. It's just the blue pearl. I think it's called blue pearl black flake hologram. This is a great bait if you're talking about fishing like suspended fish. A lot of times people are throwing a small general or stick bait to catch fish that are suspended down, like spotted bass, down in 15, 20 feet over like 60, 70 feet of water. But the thing is, that's a great color anywhere you're flipping. Like down in Florida, I probably will be throwing one of these pearl hologram colors at some point, because there's probably going to be a shad spawn going on. So it's really hard to find good, white colors. Like I said, you can find a few companies that make your pearl whites, but they're really doing that just straight for bed fishing. If you look at jig companies, white used to be a pretty popular color. It's really not that popular anymore. I do like throwing a white one, or some form of a white or natural shad colored jig if I'm stroking it off the bottom. If I'm fishing ledges, it can be a really good color. If I'm flipping, again, if I'm flipping docks and laydowns, white or hues of white can be a really good color. But go try to find a white jig right now. It's not that easy. There are not that many of them. We'll all throw a white swim jig, but when it comes to a flipping jig, it's like nobody wants to touch it. And that doesn't make sense to me because they're proven fish catchers. There definitely are a lot of professional tournament anglers that rely on white flipping baits pretty heavily year round, and they're doing quite successful at it. They're just not sharing the fact that they're throwing white as much as most people would think. Anytime you talk about flipping, people just assume it's like a green pumpkin or a black and blue color. Don't do that, guys. I'm telling you, your whites and your silvers can be a really, really good flipping color when you've got fish that are really keen in on either, your bluegills or your shad species. It's just a color that I think we're really overlooking. So just a quick video today, guys. Just something that, I don't want you thinking you can't just, you have to throw a green pumpkin or black and blue. And those are old standbys. They're the #1 selling colors for a reason. But remember, sometimes the fish get accustomed to that stuff. So it's worth having a bag of white or silver flipping baits, maybe a white jig, to give it a try. Because there are times, I'm telling you, it's like they have never seen that, and they will hit it so hard that they just rip it out of your hand. And I think a lot of that is because they know if they're chasing shad, they really got to come out and ambush them. So they just crush the bait when it's on. So definitely, the two top times for me are the post-spawn period when the shad spawn's going well. And then also in the fall, you've got that fall transition where the fish are kind of keying back in on shad, really heavily keying in on shad. And that's another time where it just seems like it really just outperforms. And I know all of us have tons of white swim baits and white moving baits. I'm telling you, slow down and throw a white bait too. You may want to work it more in a reaction strike retrieve. So if it's a jig, you're popping it. If it's a Texas rig, you're doing the same thing. You're maybe using a little bit heavier weight to get it to fall into that laydown faster to create that reaction strike. But it's something that just generates strikes when other colors don't seem to work sometimes. So you need to have a few white baits here and there just to give it a try, because it really can make a difference. And it's something that I find frustrating because when I go to get tackle, I can't find a lot of my favorite baits in a silver baitfish kind of hued color. So guys, if you're doing this, put in the comments section, what baits you like to use for it, if it's worked for you in the past, or if you think white is completely a waste of a color to have in your pitching baits. I think it's worthwhile, but I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. So thanks for watching. Just a quick video today, more of just a discussion back and forth, but I think it's valuable. I think it's a good topic. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. So thanks for watching. Tune in tomorrow. Another good video coming out.